Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. As our part of our 100 Days of Magic, today we're going to take a look at Odyssey. Odyssey was October 2001 is when it was released, and it had 350 cards. It was a big set. 110 rare, 110 uncommon, 110 common, and 20 lands. Can you imagine trying to collect a set with 110 rares? Whoa, this was hardcore stuff back then. But it was on Dominaria. Sit on the that was back when they were like just continent hopping on Dominaria. Yeah, it never really occurred to them for a long time that they were planeswalkers to walk to different planes. But anyway, let's get into it. As I said, these are just cards that grab my eye. Um, I didn't do entire cycles or stuff like that, but Ancestral Tribute is not bad. You gain 2 life for each card in your graveyard. Now, life gain as a whole is not that amazing of a concept for us, but I mean, it does have a flashback, albeit at an exorbitant rate. But ideally, by the time you get that, this card is, what are you getting? The idea is to get upwards of 20 life out of it. If life gain is your thing, if that's what you're building your deck around, odds are you're playing a white anyway. This might be something to consider. Speaking of life gain, this 3-mana enchant land turns whatever land you put it on into a Diamond Valley. Diamond Valley is, of course, on the reserve list, and Animal Boneyard is not. So it has the exact same text as Diamond Valley, only it doesn't have the price tag Diamond Valley has. Aven Cloud Chaser. Now, I have a history with Aven Cloud Chaser. I put this in decks, and I keep meaning to take it out for something better, but I always end up using it. Every game I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I drew this card. I need to take it out. There's so many better options. And then somebody does something, and it's like, well, I'm glad I had this destroy enchantment stapled to a creature because I can't play instants for whatever reason, and I can play creatures. Yeah, it always, yeah. Aven Cloud Chaser, 4-mana 2/2 flyers. With the ability to pop it in enchantment. What is that worth? 1 mana, 2 mana. So maybe. Balancing Act. Now balance is banned in our format, but Balancing Act is not. But it's not quite the same card. Each player chooses a number of permanents he or she controls. Equal number of permanents controlled by the player who controls the fewest and sacks the rest. You do the same with cards at hand. So it just totals the permanents. Balance like wrecked 4 different aspects, but this is just, total permanents. So Beloved Chaplain. Now, if there's one protection I absolutely love is protection from creatures, because that means number 1, they can't be blocked, and number 2, he is an amazing blocker. He is a 1/1, but that ability doesn't show up a whole lot, just a handful of times in the history of the game. So that's why I wanted, and I do believe Beloved Chaplain was the first one to have protection from creatures. It's pretty good to Voltron up and not get blocked. Divine Sacrament. Now, this is a card I think I'm the only one I've ever seen use. It is a crusade because it does affect all white creatures. But with Threshold, it's a double crusade. So I run it in, obviously, Griffins, because I run all the crusade type effects in Griffins. But in decks where I'm about that +1/+1 enchantment. Kurtar's Wrath. Back in the day when they were scared of regeneration, I guess. 6 mana. Odyssey was the threshold block. Obviously, you can tell so far we haven't got out of white, and we have a couple threshold cards. But destroy all creatures, and then you get 2 spirits. Lieutenant Kurtar. Now, as I remember from the story, Lieutenant Kurtar was absolutely amazing. Storyline wise. 3-mana 2/2 flyer. You sack him to exile now. Target attacking creature. Now, I've built this deck. I don't exactly remember how I went about it. I may have done bird soldiers. I can't remember. But y'all seen the deck, so. Mystic Crusader. Now, I played the heck out of this card. 3 mana protection from, the removal colors, or white's enemies, and then the ability to make it a 3/2 flyer in later game. That's really not bad for 3 mana, especially in white. Piana, Nomad Captain. Now, the white tribe in this, they did tribal with Odyssey, but they wanted to do like obscure tribal. With white, they did Nomad Mystics. With blue, they did Cephalids. Yeah, it was weird. But, so you'll notice a lot of the Nomad Mystics in white. Now, Piana was the leader of them. And, I've... No, I did not build I have Piana built, but she is leading the deck that is... All cards start with the letter P, because, planes. Anyway, always looking for upgrades to that one. I don't think I've cracked that deck open in a couple sets, so I may want to look at the last 3 or 4 sets. Sphere of Grace. Now, there was a whole cycle of these. They were all 4 mana, 3 colorless and a white for an enchantment, and there was one for each color. The reason why I chose the black one to show is that the black one is the one I use the most. From Pestilence to Crypt Rats to the Pestilence Demon. And you could totally use the red one for the red type of abilities like that, the Pyrohemia and the dragons that do it and the giants that do it and whatnot. But this way, you don't die to your own Pestilence. And presumably your creatures are not going to die either because you're probably running a black-white deck with protection from black creatures. So. Tireless Tribe gets 0 respect. I'm telling you, this is the greatest card nobody's playing in their Doran deck. I'll just let that sink in a little bit. Yeah, because typically with Doran was our wall commander before we got Arcades, and everybody was like, I want to run walls because it's, cheap mana, high toughness. Well, you know what? It don't get any cheaper than Tireless. Well, I guess Shield Sphere, but Tireless Tribe. I remember I have a cousin that plays, and I showed him Doran, and the first thing he said was, oh my gosh, Tireless Tribe's amazing. Because you can just attack with your Tireless Tribe, and if they don't block it, because it's a 1/1, what are you going to do? I'm going to ditch my hand. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Aboshan Cephalid Emperor. Tap an untapped Cephalid you control to tap target permanent. Now, the beautiful part here is 3 mana, tap all creatures without flying. Now, that includes him, but that doesn't matter. His ability doesn't require to tap, so it is, with enough blue mana, it's reusable. I don't think I've built Aboshan yet. More than likely, it's going to be Tribal Cephalids. Yeah. 6 mana for a 3/3. Boy, you can tell they were coming off of the... Because they would have been designing this about the time everything was going down with the Urza block being overpowered. So, because they were a couple years out. You can tell, definitely. Now, Aboshan's Desire. Another card I don't think that gets a lot of love. Yeah, it's 1 mana, it gives it flying, but the threshold ability is where it's at. To give it Shroud, flying and Shroud for 1 mana seems decent. Auragraft. Yeah, in today's... how many times have you seen an aura that has just absolutely won the game? Be it an Eldrazi Conscription, a Battle Mastery, or whatever. You know what? I'll take that enchantment. Thank you very much. And I'll just move it over to my commander and appreciate it. Next. Auragraft. I hadn't seen it played in many years. Now, Careful Study. Careful Study is typically used in our format to more to fill up a graveyard than to actually, yeah, it draws you 2 cards and you get to ditch 2. So this is everything a lot of decks want to do, especially like blue-black decks, or if you are reanimating, or heck, I understand what their intention was with the card is to help you get threshold, but this is kind of busted in 60 card Magic. Always has been, always will be. It's a really good card. Cephalid Retainer. Here again, it's the Abishan ability, but it's on a 4-mana body. Tap target creature without flying. That's the only reason why I have it in there. Deluge. Oh. Yeah. Y'all have seen me put this in a lot of decks. A lot of decks. Especially, you know. Yeah. It's an instant, and that's what I love most about it, is that you can cast this right before you untap for your turn, and it's going to be hard to have blockers for your onslaught. Persuasion. This was the card that really hit it home to us that they were serious about not doing any 4-mana control magics anymore. 5 mana is apparently where it's at. And then it was 5 mana at rare. So, which at least later on when we got mind control, it was 5 mana at uncommon. So, yeah. Time stretch. Now, this is one of the hotly debated cards of our entire format. A lot of people... Now, I've got this in 1 or 2 decks I know y'all have seen. By the way, I love that flavor text. There's lots of time, like the present. I love it. But I've seen a lot of people just straight up concede to a time stretch. Now, here's my thinking. Yes, it's 10 mana, but a lot of times we just don't pay for it, or we're doubling mana. Or, 10 mana spells is not a terrible thing for us to come up with in our format. But here's my logic with time stretch. If somebody casts a time stretch and it resolves, the table lets it resolve, they're probably going to win. If they can't win and taking 3 turns in a row, number one, why they cast it, and number two, they're probably just going to draw a big old bullseye on their forehead, and everybody else at the table is going to just swing at them. Traumatized. Now, we play with a 99 card format, so milling people is kind of hard to do. So that's traumatized gets you halfway there. Hey, it gets you all the way to threshold, right? It's I use traumatize in a whole lot of decks, especially like living in decks or living death, where I bring everything back from the graveyard, just chock full of creatures, and then traumatize and bring them all back. Fun times. Upheaval. So good, it's banned. I say good. There's nothing good about this card. It is just unholy of all cards. This is not just return all permanents to their owner's hands. Yeah, sure, let's just start this game over. Luckily, I have never seen anyone cast this in any format. Thank goodness. Another card that is too good for our format. Braid's Cabal minion, but since I do all legendaries, she is banned in our format, as well she should be. I did some broken and ridiculous things with Braids and 60 card Magic, and I don't want to be... I'm not responsible enough for her to be legal. I am not. And I know there are a lot better, more strategical deck builders out there that could take advantage. Look at the crazy eyes, too. Oh, man. Cabal Patriarch. The Cabal was actually, I don't know. Think like the mob. Yeah, the Cabal kind of ran Otaria. Yes, they were evil. And this was the Cabal Patriarch. He was the big baddie that ran everything. I believe him and Phage had a daughter. I'm not sure. Entomb. The set that gave us Entomb. It hadn't been reprinted a whole lot. And, for when you just got to put that creature in the graveyard, that one specific creature. Of course, living the dream is, Swamp, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Animate Dead, or some form thereof. But it's really good. Now, Ghastly Demise. People love Tragic Slip, and people love the 1-mana stuff, but nobody plays with Ghastly Demise. if its toughness is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. So there's no, I mean, early game, this is killing ones and twos. Late game, it's killing anythings. And it's 1 mana instant, and yet I have never seen it cast in Commander. Mordivore. This was we had Lugoif in Ice Age, and they wanted to do a Lugoif for each color. They were all at rare. Some of them were better than others. I love Mordivore here because he slots so well into a lot of decks, into a lot of reanimation style or creatures in the graveyard style decks. And he just fits right in. For 4 mana, he's generally always big. And he regenerates. Not that matters for the cards back then. Zombie Infestation is, this is a card right here from many, many reasons. Yeah, you can put it in your zombie deck. You can discard your cards that'll have madness. You can... the most wicked thing I've ever seen with it was somebody ditching their hand to get up underneath a ensnaring bridge so could nobody attack. That was sick. But there are other ways to do that. But discarding 2 cards to get a creature is not bad. Anarchist. Now, I use Anarchist and like every version I can find of Anarchist in my Warp World deck because the object is when I cast Warp World, I don't want to stop. Warp World goes to the graveyard, and I am typically getting, because most of the deck is multipliers. Like I play 1 creature and it comes in with a token so that I get 2 permanents off of it. Now, and the idea behind the Warp World deck is I just keep multiplying because almost all my cards are multipliers. And one of them is going to be an Anarchist type ability to put the Warp World back in my hand. And I'm just going to keep mushrooming out while everybody else at the table has not built their deck this way. And they have got instants and sorceries. And their number is going to keep growing smaller until eventually I'm the only one with permanents on the board. And this is called fun. Anyway, that's why I wanted to show Anarchist. Now, Burning Sands. Whoa. I don't even own this card. I mean, it's cool. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, that creature's controller sacrifices a land. That was back when they were just willy-nilly with the land destruction. So there's so many ways you can put that to just, ooh. Chance Encounter. We have Rakdos. Our new Rakdos does a coin flipping thing. And here, when you win 10 coin flips, you just win the game. So this is a card. Every time they print a coin flipping card, it goes up just a little bit. Because it's not for everybody. Not everybody enjoys the coin flipping. I get that. Dwarven Recruiter is just like the other recruiters, only it was for dwarves. Now, dwarves being not exactly the well-populated race back then. Now we've got white dwarves. What? I guess we've always had the magazine White Dwarf, hadn't we? But anyway, white dwarves from the Kaladesh block, I believe. Epicenter. This one is not one that I'm advocating. There's a place and time for mass land destruction, but Epicenter is kind of one of those. I don't know that you're ever going to play it without Threshold. I really don't. To make somebody sacrifice 1 land for 5 mana. Yeah, it's not happening. Kamal the Pit Fighter. Tap to bolt something. At least it has haste, so you get something out of your 6 mana when you cast him. You can either bolt or swing. I don't exactly know how I'm going to build this. I have not built this Kamal yet. Liquid Fire. Now, not that this is a good card, but there's a story behind this card. R&D wanted a sorcery with trample. They wanted a damage sorcery with trample on it, and that's what they designed. And then when it got up the chain, they're like, look, that's not going to work. And so they had to word it like this. Yeah. the wording actually gets weirder. I think that was the one, right? Liquid Fire deals 5 damage as you choose between target creature and that creature. Yeah. Price of Glory. You want to play counter spells? Go right ahead. Whenever a player taps a land for mana during the player's turn, destroy that land. So if they tap 3, they lose 3. Yeah, pretty big time. Seize the Day. I would love. Oh God, I wish we printed cards in Latin. Is it Latin? Is Carpe Diem Latin? Y'all help me out. I'm thinking it is. This would have been a great, because this was around the time that they were doing the foreign pre-release cards. This would have been great. That pre-release version would have been worth infinite dollars. But anyway, you get to untap one creature. That's the important thing. It's not a Relentless Assault effect per se. You get to untap one. You get another combat step, followed by an additional main phase. Now, that's something else that doesn't appear on all of your extra combat cards. Is some of them say you get an additional main, and some of them don't. So that's important for things that trigger at the beginning of, obviously, your main phase. New Frontiers is played in a lot of like group hug style effects, and if you want to turbocharge a pod, this is the way to do it. Okay, everybody, we're now skipping from turn 3 to turn 12. Let's do this. We're going to play a quick game. Seaton, the Crozen Protector. I believe he is my Tribal Druids. Tap an untapped druid you control. Here's the funny part about that. It's kind of an oxymoron here. Most druids already tap for mana. Squirrel Nest. Now, Squirrel Nest is real good. Of course, this is one of the many enchantments that you can slap on a land, and if you've got an opposition, is it opposition squirrel? You can tap or untap, so you tap this to get the squirrel, you tap the squirrel to untap the land, and here we go. But anyway, it's squirrels. Terravore, I was actually looking for when I built Lord Windgrace, but I didn't have one. Terravore, I mean, as the green Lord Warfare, 3 mana, really, really not bad, and it has trample. Zoologist, my buddy Danny, y'all remember Danny? He just put this into one of his decks, and it's if you're running like a Rurik Thar style deck or a Nikia or just a heavy amount of creatures, or if you're running a way to manipulate the top of your library, it's really, really good. Now we're into the gold. Atog. I guess it's why is this legendary? Oh my god. I'm going to have to build an Atog deck. A 5-color Atog deck. Now, all the Atogs eat something different. Some of them eat enchantments, and some of them eat your turn and artifact. This eats Atogs. So, I have a feeling there's going to be a significant amount of changelings in the deck. One of my all-time favorite cards, Decimate. 4 targets. Artifact, creature, enchantment, and land. Mystic Enforcer. I don't know. Maybe I've got this on here for just nostalgia's sake. 4 mana is not bad. If you can get the threshold going off, it's a 6/6 Pro Black Flyer for 4 mana in Selesnya, which is kind of hard to get a decent flyer, for 4 mana. Psychotog. There's funny. There's another card in the set, Shadow Mage Infiltrator, and that was the card everybody wanted from the set. And in the 60 card days, we would use the Psychotog as a proxy for the Shadow Mage Infiltrator until we realized that Psychotog was better. And we're like, you know what? I think my Psychotogs are just going to be Psychotogs because it feeds itself. I mean, you discard a card thus feeding your graveyard to give it +1, and then you remove cards in your graveyard to give it another +1. It just comes out of nowhere. It really does. And it helps your discard theme decks. And Shadow Mage Infiltrator. By the way, this is Johnny Magic. This is John Finkel. My opinion, my mother asked. I referred to John Finkel a couple years ago, and she asked, who is that? I said, Mom, us Magic players have a different type of celebrities. We have different celebrities. I said, John Finkel, he's our Michael Jordan. And I stand behind that. I mean, and yeah, I may be biased because I'm an old guy and I've seen John Finkel play since he was in high school. But anyway, this is a great card. His favorite card. I've got a video cassette of like one of the early Pro Tours, and he's got all like dyed hair, and he shows Ophidian in his favorite card, and he says, "I just wish it dealt the damage." Here we go. Catalyst Stone. Now, Flashback has been revisited a couple of times. It's not exceedingly popular, but if you're doing a Flashback style deck, this is the card you need. Now, Charmed Pendant, for the life of me, I don't understand why this card is not played out the frame, especially in 3 or more color decks. For each colored symbol. Now, granted, you're throwing it in the graveyard. You're putting the top card in the graveyard. However, if you've got some kind of library manipulation or maybe, a beautiful card here since, was it blue Future Sight? The card where you play with the top card of your library revealed, or any of those cards that because there's a creature that does it, and it's a 4-mana huge mana rock. Especially if you're playing with, I would throw a bolus in a graveyard to get, double blue, double red, double black. I would do it in a heartbeat because I probably want to animate him anyway later. Mirari. This is the reason for the season, folks. This is how the Gerard and the Weatherlight and all of that was. The Mirari kind of, this thing, it's not just an artifact. It's a character in the story. It really is. I mean, the set symbol is the Mirari, and this goes on. The Mirari matters for many, many sets, and if you want to be honest with you, it still matters. You know how like the Ring of Power from Lord of the Rings had like its own thoughts and its own wants. Yeah, I feel like the Mirari was that way too. Crystal Quarry. I've got this in there just because if you're playing 5 colors, you can have Perfect Wooburg if you want it. Yes, it takes 5 to make 5. It's not really busted that way. I would have liked for it to have been 4 because you're still typing 5 lands, but that's just me. Anyway. Darkwater Catacombs. There was a friendly dual cycle here. I think these have earned the name filter lands because you can shove a colorless through it and get out a pair of the friendly colors. So there was a white, blue, black, white, green, all of that jazz. So they're pretty good. I enjoy them quite a bit. I think all I have are index. And that is what we have got for Odyssey. I do appreciate y'all watching. Y'all let me know what you think. And I guess we will see y'all tomorrow. Good night.